The National Security Minister weighing in on that murder-suicide over the weekend. The man alleged to have murdered his girlfriend has passed away in hospital, and Minister of Health defending the Prime Minister. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Simonet with your JCN News for this Tuesday, January 25th. National Security Minister Wayne Munro, the latest to speak on the murder-suicide incident over the weekend. With the details, we go to our Leah Cooper.
National Security Minister Wayne Munro confirming with reporters this morning that one complaint was filed by Heavenly Trevious on January 16th. That complaint was in regards to a damaged vehicle by her alleged killer. The question was also raised as to why Trevious was tasked with trying to get her fiancé to come back to the home rather than police going out and trying to find him themselves. In response, the National Security Minister says this.
Police control room dispatched a patrol car. The suspect was not there. They questioned the complainant. Having questioned the complainant, she attempted to get him to return there so they could arrest him. He didn't return. She was advised to make a formal complaint to the Grove Station, who has investigators. The matter was assigned a case number, but there's no indication that she actually went to the Grove Station and made a complaint for follow-up.
He says generally people are directed to file a formal complaint at the nearest police station. Minister Munro adds that manpower restraints doesn't permit the police to go looking for anyone. That said, he says that officers do require some cooperation from the public. Asks what type of protections are available to victims of domestic abuse once they file a formal complaint. Mr. Munro says this.
You have the patrol officers aren't investigators. They make arrests, they respond to actual things that are happening. So if they meet you there, they arrest you, they take you to the station, the matter is given a case number, the investigation begins. What we do not see in the system is any indication from her, for instance, that he shot at my sister. He is on bail, which she would have been aware of. Had they known that, it would have triggered a different response.
But there are concerns from the public that perhaps police, law enforcement, and perhaps even the judicial system could have done more. This could have been avoided.
You can always do more in hindsight. Hindsight is 20/20, and that's the fact. The fact of the matter is that the police have a system where the officers responding to your patrol officers, they are not investigators. If they find a suspect, they will arrest him. If they do not find the suspect, the system creates a matter, and you do have an obligation to then go in, make a formal complaint, because if somebody isn't found committing an offense, then you need to get a warrant of arrest. To get a warrant of arrest, somebody needs to be able to go to a JP and say, this person have made a written complaint, and act on that basis. And so it is a fact that you have to go to the station and make a complaint. Sometimes it's just saying very simple things that will trigger a process. If you say somebody had a gun, shot at somebody, the police react quite differently than if you say this person broke my car glass.
21-year-old Heavenly Trevious was found shot to death in front of her 1-month-old baby boy and lying next to her fiancé, Finron Delano Ferguson.
It depends on the circumstance. If there's a relationship of cohabitation, the domestic violence protection order permits judges to exclude persons from homes, to issue protection orders. If you threaten somebody, you'll be charged with an offense, you go before the court. If you continue, you will breach the condition of your bail, and then we have some place where we will house you till your trial comes up if you insist on continuing to breach the conditions of any bail granted.
Reporting for JCN News, I'm Leah Cooper.
The man alleged to have murdered his girlfriend and mother of his 1-month-old son, Finron Ferguson, has succumbed to self-inflicted injuries, according to police. The murderer turned suicide victim shot and killed 21-year-old Heavenly Trevious in her home on Miami Street Saturday night. According to police reports, Trevious was in a bedroom in the home when Ferguson entered the room, closed the door behind him, and locked it. Moments later, family members heard gunshots and alerted police. Trevious, the infant, and Ferguson were subsequently found on the floor of that bedroom with injuries. The young mother was pronounced dead on the scene. Ferguson and the couple's son were taken to the hospital, where Ferguson was listed in critical condition. Police Press Liaison Officer Superintendent Audley Peters confirming with the media Tuesday morning that Ferguson succumbed to his injuries on Monday sometime around 7 p.m. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville defends the Prime Minister, admitting last week that he visited a store downtown on December 23rd, just hours after announcing to the nation that he would be self-isolating following his wife and other family members testing positive for COVID-19. Dr. Darville told reporters this morning that Mr. Davis was actually en route to quarantine when he decided to stop at the store to pay a bill on items he had previously ordered. Asked if it would be okay if a civilian did the exact same thing, Dr. Darville says this.
No, I didn't say that. What we said is that there was no violations of the rules. The Prime Minister got a report. He subsequently decided that en route to going into quarantine, he stopped off and paid a bill, and he stayed into quarantine. The medical professionals came behind and clearly indicated that he was exposed, and he abided by the rules. So it has nothing to do with whether it was civilian or the Prime Minister. He was en route to quarantine.
Members of the opposition have heavily criticized the Prime Minister's actions, charging that his actions is a betrayal of his oath to uphold the law. In fact, former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands called for the Prime Minister to resign, especially since Mr. Davis was very vocal about an incident back in May of 2020 where 6 permanent residents who landed in the country with COVID-19 testing supplies were allowed to quarantine at home before they produced a negative COVID-19 test result. Mr. Davis at the time labeled that as a show of hypocrisy and called for Dr. Sands to resign. Dr. Darville responds to this call.
Absolutely unwarranted. The Prime Minister spent his entire time in quarantine. He did what he had to do. And the issue is, as far as I'm concerned, with the medical professionals, when he were informed, he abided by the rules.
Prime Minister Davis, during remarks at the memorial of Leon Griffin, husband of former Cabinet Minister Melanie Griffin, admitted to visiting Park Lane Jewelers on Bay Street to pay for Christmas gifts just hours before Mr. Griffin's murder. Mr. Davis also claims that he was one of the last persons to speak to the deceased at the store. Housing and Transport Minister JoBeth Colby-Davis told reporters today that the Prospect Ridge development will be abandoned as the ministry's tech team has advised her to leave it alone.
Our team has provided a full briefing to the cabinet. The issue and the reason why that took so long is because we stopped the work that we intended to do, because when we went to the supplementary budget, the funds was actually taken back because of some of the issues that came up in the DEPP report. And so we didn't get to really start the other stuff that I said was missing to produce a master plan. So we gave a briefing to cabinet, and we're just waiting for them to give a final response. But I would say that our from my tech team, they have recommended that we leave it alone.
Back in March of 2021, then Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis tabled a resolution in Parliament that would give young Bahamian professionals access to affordable land in an upscale community. However, since taking office, Minister JoBeth Colby-Davis has heavily scrutinized the project. She says this about those some 1,500 applications that applied for the community.
Their applications are still on file, and obviously they have been approved for various amounts, and like I said, we're offering an expansive amount of homes across in Providence, and the options are beautiful, the models are beautiful, and I am quite certain they'll be very happy to start their families or grow their lives or make their first single largest investment in any of the homes that I offer. And so I don't want anyone to get discouraged.
Minister Colby-Davis further noted that there were a number of issues that resulted in the government's abandonment of the project.
There's a lot of issues that came out of the DEP report that I tabled, and a lot of them had to do with environmental concerns, whether or not it was quite possible, and if that has larger concerns, then that means the infrastructural costs could have been exuberant. And so that's the biggest concern, because how we divide up the cost of the lot is based on the overall infrastructure cost. So, for instance, there was a guesstimate of $15 million, but I can tell you properties near there, like Balmoral, their cost was over 25. So say that infrastructure cost is $30 million, 300 lots. That's $100,000 per lot. That's not an affordable program. So my focus is affordable housing, and where I can help as many persons as I can, then I do that.
Meantime, the House and Transport Minister says that her ministry is looking at a few government-owned lands to turn into a new community. The alleged culprits behind last Tuesday's killing of 60-year-old Claudette Capron spent their first night on remand at the Bahamas Department of Correction after they were formally arraigned in the magistrate's court before Magistrate Samuel McKinney on Monday. 30-year-old James Knowles of Ida Street and 18-year-old Gerardo Marshall of Old Cedar Street were both charged with 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and armed robbery. It was on January 18th that Miss Capron was exiting a car to attend prayer meeting when she was hit with stray bullets. The shooting unfolded as a gunman chasing another man fired his weapon while in pursuit. Miss Capron was hit to the face and chest. As for the attempted murder charge, prosecutors allege that the duo attempted to kill Antoine Adderley and Emilio Ramsey. The duo also robbed Kendra Ramsey at gunpoint of a 2011 Honda Fit. The pair were not required to enter a plea and bail was denied. Knowles and Marshall returned to court on March 25, 2022. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.